Hello, greetings, and exciting out there. Welcome to another preview episode of Dynamite tonight from PWTorch. I'm your host, Tyler Sage. I bring Tyler. Thank you for joining me as always. And let's chat about I think it's called Holiday Bet. I know what's it called, New Year's Smash. Someone please type in the comments. I know you all know more than I do on the branding here. I had the card pulled up, so let's see if I can find that while we wait for people to enter the room. Thank you, everyone that's joined already. As I pull up my card here, this is very compelling live broadcasting. New Year's Smash. There you go. So we figured it out. That's what it's called for December 28th, 2022. The ultimate, not the penultimate. That was last week's episode of Dynamite. The last Dynamite of 2022. So we are here and got a lot to talk about. I think, one thing to really, and hello, I see as my chat is on my screen. Hazan here with a good point, and we'll get to that as well. And then Zach is here as well. So good to have both of you here and everyone else that's watching. Obviously off the top, like, subscribe, bell notification, all that good stuff. Appreciate you guys all for being here, especially on this presumably holiday weekend. I don't know if you guys have to work your normal schedules or not. If you don't, congratulations. If you do, then you are one of the many great people that make this world work. So thank you for doing everything that you do. Hope you're enjoying this week if you have to work or not. So, I think one thing we're really going to be hitting on starting next week is, and we've seen a longer promo of it here as I kind of filibuster as Brian, thank you for joining. I see your thing there. I think stuff going on today might be some of the dumbest stuff, but we'll talk about that, I think, at the back end of the show. But all the extended graphic of the new design for Dynamite and the showcase of the stars in that situation, I thought was really slick. And I think myself, Wade Keller, being one of the biggest proponents of a kind of a refresh and to focus more on the presentation and to make AEW feel a little more major leagues than it does, and to put its talent in the correct position. And, whether you love it, every single person, or think that, if you ran the company, would this person be, a top 10 person that's pushed in an ad like that? I think everyone looked good, and just deciding to, lead with 10, 12 people and just to focus on that. I think, whether it's who I or you would choose, I think it's good that we're there and from an AEW perspective and deciding like, hey, these are the people we're leading 2023 with. So I like that. And as Hazan has said here, are they going to destroy the set next week? I mean, that'd be great, especially if it's the main event of that, depending on who, if Mercedes is actually going to be there this week. Sorry. I mean, it's a false sign anywhere, right? So if you destroy that set and the following week you come up and do that, I think that's pretty good. And you specifically, Hazan, have been spot on with a lot of this trios, Death Triangle stuff. So, or Elite Death Triangle stuff, I should say. So I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go out on a limb and predict that that's what happens. And we'll get to that, obviously. But I think, one thing to look for today, if you're a viewer and maybe you don't pay attention like I do, I know I can be a little weird with kind of the outside the ring, outside the actual wrestling stuff that I focus on. But if you just look today, how it looks, and then look how next week looks, and just to base your opinion, because I think people are going to be talking about it. I think so. Brian's here with what's the stupidest wrestling speculation you've ever heard in your life. And, as an example, having a Big Swole pop up and be Saray's partner on 111. That would be, I think, a letdown for a lot of the live viewers. And, so I would agree with that. I think a lot of the stuff Dax Harwood is saying has been some pretty dumb speculation. I think that there's been lots of outsources, especially Brian Alvarez just tweeted out that, he's obviously essentially the PR person for Matt and Nick, that is not happening, that Punk and the the Bucks are not going to be working together in the future. So that was probably, I thought we were going for there, but that's what I was thinking. So, but yeah, Zach is in here again and saying, yeah, the strength set would be interesting. Sure. I mean, it's a Falls Count Anywhere match too. So by the rules of wrestling, a Falls Count Anywhere match cannot end in the ring, right? So if you do some crazy stuff and this is your main event, because based on this card, it feels like the main event to me, unless you want to have, Samoa Joe and Wardlow be the main event, which, I like Joe and Wardlow. I think I've liked at times, but Joe main eventing those 2 weeks in a row. I think you guys can fact check me on this if you have the numbers in front of you. Were two of the worst consecutive Dynamites from a rating standpoint back to back, and he had main evented 2 weeks in a row there. So I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see. See where that goes. But let's get into the card itself. We'll start right there. We got Samoa Joe taking on Wardlow, and this for the TNT Championship. That is obviously being defended on TBS. That's why you do not name your titles over broadcasting companies. And, I would almost love to see them leave Turner in their next TV deal and see what they rebranded if they turn it into the, I don't know what channel is even available, but the, the Apple TV Plus title or something like that. That'd be very funny. Just rebrand that thing and change it. But we'll see about that. But yeah, I mean, Hassan jumps in here. Joe's been a good TNT champion so far. I think so. I think there's really two ways to go with the TNT title, and or there have been two ways that this has gone, right? It's either been when it's worked, right? So you look at the kind of less than title runs, and you think of Wardlow, you think of what Scorpio Sky probably would be in that category. I would say a Cody, maybe a Darby second run, a Cody third run, something like that. I'm trying to think of the bad runs off the top of my head here, but what all the good runs have had is either a monster heel or dominant heel that doesn't defend it very often, or you have a baby face that is essentially doing open challenges, maybe not every week, but on a regular basis and making that belt feel relevant. Think John Cena circa, what was it, 2015, 16, when he's doing that with the U.S. title. So, that's kind of been the strategy. So Joe fits into obviously one of those molds where he's not wrestling all the time, but he is a badass who is making that title feel more important. And it's not a, heel or babyface with Scorpio being the heel and Wardlow being the face that have the title, but then don't seem to ever do anything with it. Obviously, it's not the talent's fault, right? Obviously, it's not it's how they book it and how Tony Khan feels at the time. But if you want to make a title feel important, that's how to do it. And that's why, as always, and you guys know, I think you guys are all on the same page. Let me know if not. Let me know if you want more belts. But that's the problem with more belts all the time, is that your legacy belts are not good. Yes, Brian in here. Sammy, yes. I think does he have 2 runs or 1? Whatever. However many he has, they've all been bad runs with that TNT title. So same sort of thing as well. It's just, making it be a focal point of maybe not the show, but kind of like the tag team titles too, right? Like they can ebb and flow. Like you have your Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus early run that I thought felt was pretty good, and then it kind of lessened. And same with Swerve and Keith Lee felt hot at first and then fell off, and then claimed have, I think, are dangerously in. Yeah, well, you guys are here. I'm gonna pop it up here because give you guys credit, but yeah, Brian thinks he had 3, and Zan's like, I think he had 3. Yeah, so you guys know I watch a lot of wrestling, a lot of Dynamite, and I kind of block that right out of my memory. I think that's easily takes the cake for the worst runs of the TNT title. So for Sammy, that is, to be clear. But yeah, so it's fit in there, and I think that's pretty obvious, and I think we're on a good path so far with Joe in being that guy who defends it, rarely, but it makes the title feel important. And obviously right now the world title feels important because MJF has it, even if he's not on TV a ton compared to other world champions, and the trios title and the women's, all 4 of those core title. I guess trios not a core title, but tag team is less than all of those right now. I think it's less than the TNT title. So it's always kind of good to keep a mental track of, like, you personally, where do you put the belts? And I'm curious if you guys have any thoughts. Like, I would say right now it's world title, this is from like what I think Tony Khan thinks is important, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. Not what I think is like valuable, but it's world title, it's trios title, it's women's title, TNT, and then tag title, and then whatever you want to put out underneath that, All Atlantic or what have you. But and ROH titles are all below all of those. But that's kind of where I think it is, and Joe holding that down and making that the fourth most important belt on the show, I think is a kudos to him, because that's kind of where that belt should be, battling with the tag titles, and the TNT title should be fighting for that fourth spot. If things are going really well, or they should be battling for the third spot. I don't think the trios title should be up that high, but here we are. So you guys are talking about the idea of Miro coming back to feud with Joe. And, there's been, I think, some, I don't want to say it, no insider information here, but just knowing a little bit how things work around and people talking to people. There's a lot of Miro news lately, and that feels like not put out by Miro's camp, let's say. And, I think Hazan is, a little more where I lean, honor your deal, et cetera, and not wanting to lose. But, where that's coming from, it seems like the AEW management / Tony Khan side to give a reason why he's not on TV. So, if you're Miro, you got to think like you had these issues at WWE, now you have these issues in AEW. Not good long term. You could do a Braun Strowman type return in WWE, but I feel like it'd be no more than that. And it's not like you're doing a ton outside of that space. So I think I would caution a little bit on that if I was Miro, if I was one giving him advice, but I'm not. So we will move on past that. But let's get into some of these matches here. I know I kind of did that in the tangent because you guys are always good for good conversation ideas. But yeah, Miro, jeez, Freudian slip. Joe and Wardlow tonight. You guys already said what my prediction is here in the chat. I will find it. Here we go. Bryant, you had that. Hobbs interfering to cost Wardlow the match seems most likely. Gives both of them something to do. We saw the Book of Hobbs last week. That's usually an omen for him coming out the following week is how that usually goes. And I'm curious to see how they book it. And that's why, I don't think it's the main event, because it feels like this could be a pretty quick match because, do you want Joe selling to Wardlow a ton? Do you want Wardlow selling to Joe, et cetera? Like, I think this being a tight 7 minutes with a screwy finish. If you open the show that way too, you could show like whatever. There could be something planned and Wardlow comes out and it's like, no, I want to fight right now. And then Joe can come out and do that because that's what Joe would do. So it makes sense for both their characters. It makes sense why it would be a little abrupt. And it would also, just like last week's episode of Dynamite, it would, in the last couple of weeks, honestly, but it would change up the feel of the show a little bit with changing the format. And I think that'd be good to do, that kind of, we're supposed to be, hey, this is supposed to be a scheduled talking segment for MJF or whatever. And then it turns into, Wardlow coming out and debating a match and getting the crowd hyped because this match is happening sooner than they thought. So that's always a winning combination if you don't overuse it. But yes, Hazan here is giving it 5 to 10 minutes. No commercial break, please, Tony Khan. And Ren's here. Hi, Ren. Thank you for joining. Wardlow should sell nothing tonight. Nothing is a big word, I would say, but I think both remaining strong after a match of this type is important. So, and then I think you're on the same page with me there, Ren, as well. Make the TNT belt a big deal, make it main event or open. I think just based on kind of the stuff we talked about at the top of the show with potentially the stage getting destroyed here. This opening the show tonight would be cool. Or if the trios match is the opening match and they destroy the stage and the whole rest of the show goes on with the stage all in shambles, and then this match happens around that, I think that'd be a cool visual as well. So, I think one or the other for sure. It can't be going on at 9:00 or something. I think it's got to open or close to get the maximum amount of the crowd here. And anyone can fact check me, but is this their I feel like this is their second time in Denver. I feel like they've been there before, like early on before the pandemic. So, like we saw in Texas this week, the last couple weeks, I think we should have a pretty hot crowd. You want to make sure you give them something in the beginning and the end that's pretty hot, and have them react to that. And I think this could be that. So, my official prediction is this opens the show, and we have Samoa Joe winning with Hobbs coming in and getting some interference. But it should be a good time. I think it should set up both. Hobbs and Wardlow, I think, is a good feud to get to the pay-per-view for both those guys. You can slow play it a little bit, and choosing someone to win there, I think, is a sneaky big deal on the trajectory of AEW. Now, it could be like a WWE standpoint where, you could move up the card by losing, a Hobbs win and Wardlow moving up the card and taking on MJF at some point seems inevitable to me. To lose to MJF this time, not to have him lay down for him, but that could happen as well. But I think both those guys are important. But one of those guys out of the two could be a more important guy. Could be a top 6 guy for the company in 2023 if that's decided on. So I think that feud, who wins that feud, is important to look out for in January and February, depending when they have that match. So. Let's go. Keep it rolling with these good matches. And then I only had the matches written down. I didn't look at a full preview for like who's going to talk. So please add that in the comments if you guys know, like, hey, Hangman is scheduled to talk, have like a sit down with JR or something like that. Or if it's like, hey, we're going to announce who the tag partner tonight is for Tony. Oh no, for Saraya. So we'll see. But let me know in the chat if there's anything that's been advertised like that. But what I think is the main event is match 6 of the best of 7 series between the Elite and Death Triangle. This match is a Falls Count Anywhere match. So, obviously the Elite are going to win. We're going to go to January 11th, and we're going to have the ladder match to determine the Trios champion and who wins this best of 7 series. I think it'd be the biggest shock of, the post-pandemic, even though we're selling it, but, post crowds coming back, probably the most shocking thing in wrestling if Death Triangle were to win tonight and win the series 4-2. So we'll see. But I think you all agree. If you don't, please let me know. But the Elite win here tonight. I think it should be a fun match. All over the place, and there's 6 guys, and I think there will be at times like a good pay-per-view match, like a Sting Darby pay-per-view match. I think they will be paired off and have different things going on at different parts of the auditorium, on the stage and on the concourse and the backstage, etc. So if not overdone, that can be a fun match to see, especially on TV. And I think selling it as that, giving it the whole show to breathe and kind of get like maybe a retrospective of the feud up to this point would be good. And I think AEW's been better at that recent weeks. So I'm excited for it. I think obviously the Elite win, but we'll see. So Hazan has a prediction here. Says one person on the Elite gets injured in storyline. So I'm curious, do you think then like a new member of the Elite come in? Like does Hangman get to solidify the babyface nature of the Elite? Does Hangman come in and sub in for Matt or Nick or something? I think that'd be a pretty cool moment and would really solidify what that group is about and be kind of the dream of what AEW was when it first opened. But I think Moxley and Page have to have their thing before that could happen. So that might be more of a pay-per-view moment for somebody. But so we'll see. I think there's lots on the table here, but setting up that ladder match is key, and keeping the juice next week while Kenny's in Japan for Wrestle Kingdom, I think is important to. You think Takeshita? Okay, so put his nons up here. That'd be a great introduction of Takeshita. So I sign off on that. I think that'd be great. Taking Matt or Nick's place, I would say. So So yeah, and we shall see. So you guys help me out here. Obviously, we think Moxley's going to talk probably after the first match, like he usually does. Set up something on Rampage again, since as first today was Hazan and saying that the Rampage number was particularly good. I think that will be a course to continue on, is to put Moxley on the show tonight to hype something going on Rampage to keep that number going well, so we can see that. Jericho and Starks, is there something between those two? And then, as Brian talked about, hopefully we get the name officially on AEW TV of Swerve's other compatriot, not Parker Boudreaux, but the other gentleman. And, hopefully we hear from Swerve as well, as that feels like a big story that you want to capitalize on and not wait 3 weeks before you have Swerve talk about his, evil empire that he's creating. So those feel pretty safe to assume there. And, don't think we'll get MJF tonight either, but that's always a possibility as well. But we shall see. So, okay. So let's go. We got like 3 undercard matches, I would say. We've got Ethan Page taking on Bryan Danielson. That is obviously not a tune-up, but just to get Danielson a match and in a more aligned as a face role, whether he wants to portray himself as that or not, to get him a match against Ethan Page and a win. I'm curious to see how this goes because, I think if you look at people who have wrestled Danielson in AEW on this current run, it's hard to argue that match with Danielson, Kenny, Hangman, trying to think of other longer, more important matches, but that are one-on-one. But those are their best matches against Danielson off the top of my head. And Ethan Page is someone I really like. I like him on the mic a lot. I think he is probably more a WWE style wrestler. I think he would flourish there if given the opportunity. But, I'm curious to see how this match is. I think it'll be good. But, if Page and Danielson can have a really good 12, 15-minute match, does that elevate Ethan Page to a bigger spot? I think that would be a benefit for him and for the company. So I think obviously Danielson wins here. And as Hazan said here, next week they're essentially in Seattle. They're in Seattle, essentially, Danielson's hometown. So I think setting up something after this match to get to a big match there, maybe the main event, as we need something big, because we're not going to have the women's tag or the final match of the best of 7 series, which is happening the following week. So that would make sense. So Hassan also all over the place here. Hassan, you should be my co-host today. Saying that Matt Hardy will come out and cost Ethan Page. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And then you can have Hardy and Page feud where Page can win. And that all makes sense and keeps Page relatively same place on the card. But if you have that and Page can dominate Matt Hardy, that feels like a pretty good spot for Ethan Page. So Page losing not clean, I think would be helpful. But his hubris getting in the way is a good way instead of him being dumb. So I like that. I hope that you guys are very astute, and I sign off on that. So we've got some tag matches tonight as well. So let's go first. We got Ruby Soho and Willow Nightingale taking on Ty Mello and Anna Jay, AS. And so, definitely continuation more of Ruby and her issues with Ty Mello, and then Anna Jay, AS. Willow coming in to be the other babyface. So Ruby beat Ty last week, 2 weeks ago, which I was surprised. Typically AEW, I wouldn't say messes up, but doesn't particularly care about coming like a debut of a mid-card wrestler all the time. Like if Ruby would have lost last week to get extra heat for Ty Mello, I would not have been surprised. But, I thought it was a good sign that Ruby came back and got a win pretty easily. Not easily, but she won a hard-fought fight and was, there to, get the win and be the adept person in the roster that she is. And Willow, I think, has more upside even right now than Ruby does from a long-term standpoint. But unless you want to continue this for a long period of time, which I don't see a lot of juice left to squeeze out of this Ruby, Ty Mello, Anna Jay thing, I think having Willow and Ruby win here and have it be over, whether they get attacked at the end, whatever. But yeah, so I see that being the way the faces win there. And yeah, I mean, you're always going to, I think, win with Ruby Soho's entrance music and Willow Nightingale's presence in the ring. I think it's going to win over a live crowd. So should be, I think it's a good combo as well. But we've had a lot of women's tag teams recently. And I'm just a little worried that we're getting a women's tag title. Not that I'm opposed to a women's tag title in theory, just like, if we do that, we got to get rid of another title, or else I'm totally out on any additional titles. So we shall see. Our last booked match on the card here tonight is Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli taking on Top Flight. So another continuation of Jon Moxley specifically taking on, not being a tweener, but is there ROH Women's Tag Title, Tracy? Or something else that I'm missing here. There's so many titles. I apologize to the tag titles out there that I am misrepresenting here on the show. But so we got Claudio and Mox taking on Top Flight. And again, continues Jon Moxley in his history of taking on faces, heels, etc. Just kind of going out there and being the badass Jon Moxley character who is not wrestling as many indie dates, so therefore seems to be taking it out on members of the roster in kayfabe at least. So this should be good. I mean, obviously, Darius being back for a period of time here now, him and Dante, he's continuing Dante's legacy of being in good matches and losing. So that seems to be the trajectory here, unless you want to break up Blackpool Combat Club, which I don't think you want to do because you don't want to give a loss to Moxley or Claudio. It is just funny that the kind of hard break from Ring of Honor to AEW has been broken after, 2 weeks? There's not going to be any, I guess Joe's the same way, right? So, Joe, if you're a champion, if you're a top singles champion, you can. So if you're Athena, if you're Claudio, if you're Samoa Joe, maybe that's why you're allowed to be on AEW TV. But having the Ring of Honor champion on essentially the undercard, not great, but not totally surprising either. But I just don't know if that's worthwhile to book that way. The heartbreak is better because then someone coming over feels special, feels like a re-debut of somebody essentially. So I know not the most interesting topic, but just hopefully it's not so much like Ian Riccaboni or Caprice Coleman or someone like that on commentary for either of those matches just because they're Ring of Honor. I know they're not for Ring of Honor belts, but just if you have a Ring of Honor title on that roster, I just don't think you should be on AEW TV. And as was stated by Tony Khan, it's already break that. That's wrestling, right? It's like WWE having Raw and SmackDown rosters and then kind of doing that weird trade thing where one person per week could go on both shows. So the Superstar Flex or whatever it was called. But we'll see. But some of you are projecting an upset here. You think Top Flight's going to win. And I don't see it, but I didn't see Action Andretti winning against Chris Jericho either. So we'll see. Anything's kind of possible here. And, if you want to establish Top Flight as a legitimate tag team in a kind of weakened tag team division, and you have them beat Claudio and Moxley, who hopefully are not interrupted by JAS, but if they're interrupted if Hangman comes in and attacks Moxley and that's why Moxley gets pinned, and that's with their match and Top Flight get a win, all that sounds pretty good to me. And it would actually make some sense. Moxley is Teflon and it sets up even more for his feud. So, I think that's how you get to an upset there. But besides that, a straight clean win for Top Flight would be shocking. But hey, we'll see. Anything's possible. So, yeah, Zach, I knew you'd have the info for me. TK did say there would be some stars who appear on both shows. Yeah, I mean, and just, that's obviously what we're seeing here. Like, if there was some edict, from a mountain on high, and said that if you're the ROH champion, the pure champion, the TV champion, or the women's champion, like a singles champion, and you can be on both shows, is like a way to, from like a kayfabe and then like a kind of worked kayfabe standpoint, I think that works because, like, if you're, I don't know, give me a random, if you're Dalton Castle and you become the television champion, that means you get to be on AEW TV from time to time, and more people get to see you. You raise your star, etc. Like, as a worked kayfabe idea, I could see that and kind of like that idea and get behind it. If they don't say it explicitly, but like if that was an edict that can be sent out to like cross pollinate between the brands, I'd be fine with that. But the moment we see the Gates of Agony on Dynamite, then I'm gonna totally not blow a gasket, but I'm just gonna do a I told you so, and that there's no break in these rosters. And so we'll see. I hope I'm incorrect there. Yeah, Matt Taven is a good. I mean, he's been, he's a guy that could, take on Claudio and I think beat him down the line. So, as he's been Ring of Honor champion before. So yeah. So you guys are debating Jade, who we'll see if she's on the show. I'll spin it that way. She has not been on the show since that Bow Wow sent that selfie in. So hopefully that whole thing gets dropped and we kind of refocus Jade on something else. But I will let you guys continue to debate that. But that's kind of the show so far. Again, this week, holiday show, the number for the, what was it, December 23rd episode? No, that's not how I'm 22nd, I think it was, the Wednesday before Christmas. That number was really strong for being a holiday week show. This obviously is even more in between. Between Christmas and New Year's. So if they can stay at the same number, that 930, 940, 950 range, 0.30, all that stuff, that'd be incredible. I think if I'm Tony Khan, if it's in the high eights, I think that's fine. But, we'll see. We'll talk about it tomorrow. But that is to say, like, again, kind of like last week, it feels a little bit like there's not a huge reason to watch this show unless you're, a weekly viewer. But there's still some good matches, and some of the best Dynamites, in my opinion, come out of that. Some of the best wrestling shows come out of that, cards that look okay, but nothing like, earth-shattering. And I think there's a lot of creativity that comes out of those, as opposed to when you have a guaranteed main event and the rest of the show kind of feels okay around it. So, not projecting a Dynamite episode of Dynamite, but you guys are predicting, so we'll see. Make sure you watch tomorrow when Zach and I discuss. Usually those numbers come at about 4:30 Eastern time, so usually about halfway through a fireside chat on Thursday, we will do that. But Zach and I will be here at 4 p.m. tomorrow, right here. Same PWTorch channel, same PWTorch time. So until then, I will leave you guys there. But thank you as always for joining. I really much appreciate it, especially on this holiday week. You guys are here, strong as ever. Appreciate each and every one of you. You make it worthwhile to talk to myself because you just look at a mirror of yourself while you're talking and read stuff. Very strange, really, when you think about it. But it's because of you guys that I'm here talking. So I can thank you and I can blame you. If there's anyone out here that doesn't like this content, then I can blame all the great viewers here that are watching this stuff. So until tomorrow, I will see you guys later. And thanks and have a